Between 1985 and 2006, there were 12 different Vezina Trophy winners. Name 5 of them.
Byron Defoe, Patrick Waugh, Marty Brodeur,
Ding.
Thomas Hasek, 3, Ron Hextall, and oh God, I should get one. And oh my God, I'm blanking. I had to get one.
Time.
Jose Theodore.
Theodore was in there.
Good morning. Well, actually, no, this isn't pre-recorded. How is everyone tonight? Welcome to our 92nd installment of Flyera. Flyera. Tonight, we are joined with a very special guest. You know him, you love him. He is the Flyers play-by-play guy, Jim Jackson. JJ, how are you doing tonight? And I got to ask, how was your summer?
I'm doing great. I've had a great summer. Went to Australia and done a lot of golfing, which has been good and bad, mostly bad. And swimming and spending time with the family and enjoying it. I try to get away now ever since I stopped doing the Phillies because I realized what the break I wasn't getting the 14 years I did the Phillies really helps you recharge for the season. So I get away. I keep up on things, but I'm not like diving in every day. So, but bottom line is it's been a great summer.
Understandable for sure on that. How's the handicap?
High.
It's better than mine.
A little lower this year. I mean, you have to understand. I golfed. I was probably a bogey golfer, maybe a 16 to 18 handicapper, and then the Phillies job came along, and so for 14 years, no golf. I never picked a club up, and then my son, once I got my summers free again, my son was just getting involved in the game, and he just dragged me out all the time. So I'm back to golfing a lot, but it's not like riding a bike, guys. It just is not. You. Plus, I'm 14 years older.
14 years older. That's the hard part.
The body has changed. So, I'm not. I have to adjust to not getting as far off the tee. My short game's okay, but it's fun. I just love getting out. I love seeing different courses. When we went to Australia, we played 2 courses down there. We played at one course that was allegedly the Augusta of Australia, which was just tremendous. I went up to Turning Stone Casino in upstate New York, near where I'm from, and they had a golf package up there, and it's just 3 championship level courses. I mean, way better than I should even be on, but it's fun to play them, and I think I'm going to play around in early October as part of the Ed Snyder Flyers Cup thing. So get to play courses that I probably don't belong on, but it's a lot of fun.
Listen, any course you can play, anytime you can get out, it's a blast. Me personally, I'm terrible. I'm like a 30 handicap, so I'm not even going to attempt to try to gloat about my golf game. My father, funny enough, just had hip replacement surgery last May, and he came back at the age of 77, and now he's like a 16, 17 handicap.
Nice.
And improved his game. He lost his power, but I was just talking about this yesterday at breakfast, but he's shooting in the mid to high 80s now for 18.
Yeah. He can turn way better now.
Yes. Yeah. Need the hips. Hips. Even if they're replacement hips, you need them.
Yeah.
And the other thing is he probably has a good short game, right? So that helps. A lot of the scoring in golf is the short game. I mean, all the glamour is the long drives. My son can hit it 300 yards, but sometimes I hit my little 200-yard drive and it's in the middle, and his 300-yard drive is off in the woods. So he's a much better golfer than me. Let's get that out of it. But sometimes it's about from fairway in as opposed to tee box to fairway.
Yeah, understandable there. For me, I hit my tee shot and it goes about 220, and then it just goes in a right angle. I got the worst.
My dad was a scratch golfer. He taught me it's the way you think your way around the course.
Yeah.
You got to think your way around the course. When you learn how to do that, you're a better golfer.
Yeah, I've gotten better at that. The par 5s, like sometimes thinking about getting there in 2, it's just dumb for me. So, and then usually par 5s, you have some kind of hazard somewhere around the green to make that difficult. Yeah, I've gotten better at calling station golf, I like to call it, where you just plan your shot, hit it to an area, plan your next shot, hit it to an area. And also, very big thing is putting. The long putts. Don't putt those long ones to make it. You putt those long ones to try to get it within 2 or 3 feet. And that is shaped to cut down on my 3 putts. So that's definitely, but there's a lot of different things in golf. And once you fix one area of your swing or something, something else pops up.
Something else always pops up.
Story of my life, except it's multiple issues. All right. Anyway, with that being said, let me introduce our co-host tonight. One of my 2 gracious co-hosts are here. Jamey should be here in a little while. He's currently dealing with something at home. Should be in the room at some point tonight. But joining me, as always, the man right above me, you know him, you love him, Mr. Eric Martino. Eric, how we doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing great. Just to let everyone know, I am not a golfer, so I have no clue what you guys were talking about. But
you probably have lower blood pressure than us too.
Yeah, for sure.
I have 2 young kids. Trust me, my blood pressure is really up.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But no, man, it's honestly, JJ, man, it's a pleasure to have you back, and I'm just ready to talk Flyers hockey.
Yeah, let's go.
So let's get right into this. Last time we had you in, I believe it was right around the Olympic break, and Flyers weren't doing too hot at the time. And I sent you a private message after the fact and said, honestly, it was great to have you on. Unfortunately, we didn't think we were going to get much of playoff hockey this year. And what do you know? They flipped the switch and won an incredible run and found themselves 3rd in the Metro. So why don't we lead off with that? What did you think of last year's Flyers run? You know, I still play that shootout against Carolina occasionally when I need something to watch. And the call you made on the Tyson Forrester goal must be a hunch. Must have been a good one. Snipes one right over the glove. Flyers win that game, get in. I got a Charlie horse from jumping up and down so much. Ask my fiance. It wasn't pleasant, but what a game that was and what a run that was. So, JJ, what did you think about the run they went on last year?
It was a great run. It was a spectacular run. Obviously, it was history-making. No team had come from 10 points down from that for that far into the season, that close to the end of the season. But I think a lot of national people, at least the national experts, make it sound like that was it for the Flyers. They just had this magical run, and it was a nice story, and it was good, but they're not picking him to make the playoffs again this year. Yeah. They have to look deeper into it. We talked about this. The Flyers, up until January the 6th, were the 6th best team in the NHL by points percentage. They had a terrible January. That's why they had to go on the run to make the playoffs. But if you take January out, the Flyers had the 6th or 7th best record in the NHL, just taking January out of the picture. So they were good for much of last year. They were bad, terribly bad, in January and early February. And the break absolutely came at the perfect time for them. But, I mean, this was not just some 3-week push, the magical carpet ride that a lot of people are painting it out to be. It was they were a good team. They really need to avoid a big dip like that. But if they are able to do that, they're going to be a better team this year in terms of not having to go on a big rush to make the playoffs. And they're a young team, so they should get better. So I'm really optimistic about next year. And when I look back to last year, I whenever I do one of these, whether it's a radio interview or a podcast, I point this out. It's like, you know, they were 6th in the NHL on January the 6th. They beat Anaheim. That was their halfway point. That was their 41st game, which this year will be the 42nd game. But that was the halfway point of the season last year. And they were 6th in points percentage. I mean, that's really good. 6th is close to getting to the conference finals, obviously. You know, so and then they were, from the Olympic break on, they were 5th, I think, best. It's close to that. So if you look at it, and really from January, it was March 10th to the end of the season, they were the best team in the NHL. So yes, it was a great run, but the bottom line is they weren't just good in April or late March. They were good for much of the first half of the season. So I do think they have it in them. I know the team feels that way, but nationally, it's all, they were a nice story, but they don't have the talent. They don't blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm telling you right now, if Leo Carlsson had signed and stayed signed with the Flyers, if they had not matched, I say they would have been Stanley Cup contenders. Yes, they still don't have that number one defenseman who's just dominates a game with a puck. But I think you could kind of argue Carolina doesn't have that either. Who's their dominant defenseman? They have a dominant defensive defenseman, Jacob Slavin, but they don't have that guy. I mean, Shane Gostisbehere is not like an elite defenseman. He's done a great job resurrecting his career, but they don't have that Cale Makar. They don't have that Quinn Hughes, and they won the cup. And, their top center, Sebastian Aho, was largely quiet during the playoffs, and they still won the cup.
Yeah, that second line carried him.
Yeah, well, actually, Jordan Stahl was a monster in the finals. And, it was different players in different rounds for them, right? Anderson was great early and wasn't great late. And but the bottom line is there's all these theories out there. You have to have the elite number one center, an elite defenseman, and an elite goalie. It's just not true. There haven't been that many elite goalies winning cups lately, so we've thrown that one out. But, I mean, there have been teams, such as Carolina, who have not had that dominant defenseman either. So I think if the Flyers do get one of those two holes plugged, and Leo Carlsson certainly would have done that, they would have plugged the number one C problem, then I think they are Stanley Cup contenders. Doesn't mean they're going to win the cup, but I think they are one of the 7 or 8 teams. Now, they didn't get him, so I still think they might be a little shy of that, but I still expect the team to get better as they move along because usually young players do get better, and they don't have a lot of old guys who are going to slip down. They just don't have many at all. Do they have some guys who may have overperformed last year? Maybe. I mean, Dan Vladar is the one guy who performed way above his NHL norm, but there are those who feel that's very legitimate, that he has always had that in him and just never got the opportunity with his other chances, and he's also worked very hard at getting better. So we'll see. I mean, obviously, Matvei Mitchkov could be much better this year. I mean, he has to be much better this year as far as I'm concerned. I think they have Tyson Forster for a full year, hopefully, knock on wood, right? Porter Martone, Denver Barkey, Alex Bump, these are all guys who did not spend the full year last year with this team. So for everyone to say, well, they didn't do anything in the offseason, they took their swing, they missed, they didn't do anything else. They did add around the fringes a little, and they're expecting improvement from the players already here. Now, that doesn't always happen on a linear basis. Sometimes it's up and down like this. So we'll see how it goes. But I'm still extremely excited about this year, mainly because of what we saw last year. I don't think was some 4-week or 3-week fluke. I think it was a team that was largely good all year long. They had a bad month and had to overcome that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that breakdown, JJ. Yeah, more or less what you say is accurate. Dan Vladar was excellent, and coincidentally enough, I don't even know if this is really coincidence, when he got injured is about the time they really started going on their slump. So I think
they started before he got injured, but certainly his injury was part of that January. Yeah. Absolutely. No question.
Yeah, it did start a little bit before, but when he went down, he was the guy that could get them out of any hole. It felt like he could,
but I will say this, their defensive play in January was so bad. Yeah. I'm not sure that even he would have been able to save them. I mean, they really just hit a defensive slump. The system that Rick Tock had put in place that they had played so well for 3.5 months just kind of disappeared. And maybe most teams do go through a stretch during the course of the long season. That one lasted a little too long. It almost cost them, their great start. Their first half of their season almost went, down the toilet. But they recovered. They played very well down the stretch too. And Vladar, as great as he was great because of his consistency, in my opinion, until the playoffs, where he absolutely did steal some games, including the Game 6 win against Pittsburgh. But he didn't stand on his head and steal a game night after night. He was just good, solid goaltender for almost every game he played. And when he'd have even a slight drop-off, and as soon as he had a slight drop-off in a game, the reports were, he's tiring out. And then he'd come back to his next game, and he was very good again. So he showed he could do it. With Wall here, he might not have to do it anymore, play that many games. We'll see. But the bottom line is if he plays the way he did last year, with now we assume an upgrade in the backup. I mean, I'm a Sam Harrison guy too. He didn't have a great year last year. He did play well down the stretch, but for the most part last year struggled. I think Wall will give them better goaltending than Sam gave them last year. And with the hopeful improvement that I talked about with some of the young players, I don't think there's any reason to believe the Flyers will necessarily drop back. I think they could actually be better this year and not go as far in the playoffs, though. That's a distinct possibility. And I always go back to my time with the Phillies on this one, guys, because I was with the Phillies I started in 07, went through 20. And in the last 7 or 8 years of that was bad baseball. But the first 5 years I was with the Phillies, they won the division every year. And starting in 08, they got better every year, regular season-wise. The record went up. 08, 9, 10, 11. Went up every year, and they went less distance in the playoffs each year. Won the World Series, lost the World Series, lost the NLCS, lost the divisional playoff. So, they actually got better. I don't think anyone would disagree with the fact that the 2011 Phillies were better than the 28 Phillies. I mean, they had that pitching staff. It was unbelievable, and they had a better record. They set the franchise record that year, but they lost in the first round. That can happen. The Flyers could definitely be better next year. I guess do we say this year now? Have we officially now turned?
Yeah, I think we can say this year. Now.
They could be better this year and still lose in the first round. I mean, it could happen. I mean, they got a good matchup with Pittsburgh. Let's face it. They jumped them. They got on them early, and they could end up playing, who knows, maybe Carolina underperforms, Flyers end up in a 2-3 against Carolina, and maybe they lose in the first round. Who knows? I mean, the matchups are so important in the playoffs, and then everybody's going to say, oh, they regressed. That's not really the way it is, and it's not the way management will look at it. They'll look at it as how the team performs, how their underlying numbers are, how are they getting better? Because, again, it's all still about big picture with this management group. It's not about year to year. It's about where are we headed. I like where they're headed, and I'm excited about this year, but I also go into the year understanding that they might not win a playoff series this year, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a major step back. Now, if they play terribly and miss the playoffs and just are in disarray, obviously that's a huge step back.
Yeah.
But if they still play well, you see all the signs, maybe the power play gets a little bit better, young players start taking other steps up, and they finish in the 90 to 100 point range, maybe even click 100 points, and then they lose in the first round, many fans are going to feel, well, they're going backwards, when that's not really the case.
I agree. Honestly, it's about how they play, how the kids develop. As we've talked about, Mitchkov, Martinez first full season here. Now Barkey and Bump are going to be under the group now. See how much a guy like Forster, if he can stay healthy, it'll be Zegras' second full season here. So they got a lot of young talent that's going to be coming up and developing under a pretty stable leadership group of Konechny, Sanheim, and Couturier. So we'll see how they take a step forward this year. I'm going to pass this next question off to Eric. He's been patiently waiting, so let me see what Eric's got for you.
Yeah, I just want your opinion, because you touched on it a little bit. Because for me, like Washington last year really underachieved, and they got better. Columbus, I feel like at the beginning of the season, they really underachieved, and then they took that run towards the end of the season where they would look like they were gonna make it and not us, and then they just lost. They lost all their mojo, all their gas, and then they ended up falling out. And the Atlantic Division is still a beast of a division. And then you have Pittsburgh, who made it last year. Now, I'm always kind of wavering on Pittsburgh. You kind of don't know what to expect from them. What you're gonna get from Malkin, Crosby's pretty consistent, but they're adding these little players like Chinnikov last year. Now Hendricks, the player this year, these reclamation products, just like we are, and it's really panning out for them. So I kind of want to maybe elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on the offseason since, and I know Danny tried. Look, he tried his best. It didn't happen. We couldn't get our 1C. I love the Wool addition. Noah Char is a nice piece for the fourth line, but not addressing that center position is really, really key. And what you think maybe they might actually fall back out of the playoffs next year, and not necessarily that they're going to be bad, but just that the division might have gotten better. And also, sorry, quickly, but the West, they feasted on the West last year. I think I had it somewhere.
The whole East feasted on the West.
Exactly. So
it was,
maybe the West.
People didn't talk about that. The East was dominant over the West. That's why 98 points barely got the Flyers into the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think it'll be that way this year. I think maybe 94, 92 might get you to the playoffs this year. So right there gives them a better chance. But anyhow, finish your second question.
Yeah, no, I just want to know, what do you think the Flyers the chances that they actually get back to the playoffs next season?
Yeah, I mean, they could miss. The teams you mentioned are old teams. They have to fill their holes right now, and Pittsburgh's old still. Washington's a relatively old team. I mean, they aren't as old. They've added some good youngsters. I mean, let's say Washington does a great job of retooling on the fly. This is the second time in 3 years. And but I very, you say, oh, Jordan Kyrou. Jordan Kyrou he's a questionable. He's a talented player, but come play, I mean, he's not a good defensive forward. There are guys they've added that are glitzy, but I don't know how they're going to fit in. I mean, so we'll see how that goes. I do think Washington improved themselves, but it's only on paper. Pittsburgh, to me, they're just continually trying to figure ways to keep going for Sid. And I mean, Letang's really dropped off. And they're still going to have to play him. Malkin's had a good year last year, but does he repeat that? I don't know. He had the year before that shown real signs of aging. And Carlson's getting older, even though he had a great year last year. So, I mean, the reason that some of these other teams, they have to do it right now. Their window is closing. The Flyers' windows are just opening. And so their 23, 24, 25-year-olds, not to mention their 19, 20, and 21-year-olds, should all be getting better. Will they all get better? No. But if a majority of those players take another step this year, they don't have to go out and get players. They're going to get better by that alone. So that's really where I go with that. The other question, Columbus, I mean, everyone's saying Jet Greaves is the real deal. We'll see. They have all kinds of question marks, Columbus. The Islanders, they could. I mean, they have a goaltender that can carry them for a long stretch, and they have that number one defense we were talking about earlier. They have that already, and he's 19 years old. So they have the potential to be in the playoffs this year. The Rangers did make some improvements. So it is not by any means a lead pipe cinch that the Flyers make the playoffs this year. I do think if they miss the playoffs, you will have to say it's a step back. But if they finish with 92, 94 points and miss the playoffs, it's not like a major step back. They're 4.6 points below what they did the year before. And maybe it's because the competition just got a little bit tougher. We'll see. That's I mean, fans won't look at it that way. I mean, for the most part. And so it will be, it's going to be playoffs or bust for sure for the fans. It's really going to be for some fans, second round win or bust, because that's not progress if they don't win more rounds than they won last year. Yeah. And that's just unrealistic. We'll see about that. Montreal's a case in point of a team that's young. They don't need to go out and get many more players. In fact, they've done a great job of signing up the players they have already at relatively good prices. They are counting on that natural ascendancy through their young players getting better too. The Canadians and Flyers are two of the 5 youngest teams in the NHL. So I do think you're going to see those teams get better based upon that natural progression of youth becoming veterans, whereas Pittsburgh might be the other side. Some of their veterans are starting to go in the other direction, even though they have made some good additions. And Kyle Dubas has done a pretty good job there of giving Sid another chance or two here late in his career. And Washington, they made a lot of interesting moves. We'll see how they all fit in. I love Alex Tuch as a player, so I think that's a great addition. Kyrou, we'll see. But I think he'll produce, but he'll cost him some goals too. So and he's got to fit in. He's got some baggage there. So but there's no doubt they have a lot of offensive talent up front now, and they have a good solid team and a great coach. So I mean, it's going to be interesting. No cinch that they make the playoffs, and it is a cinch if they don't make the playoffs that most everyone out there is going to feel it's a bad year. The management's looking at it in a bigger picture. Now, if a lot of the young players for the Flyers plateau or worse, tail off, that will be a major cause for concern. Yeah. But if you continue to see them, let's say they continue to, you see some of the guys take steps, some of them won't, and the Flyers maybe suffer a couple of key injuries and they miss the playoffs. That could easily happen. Then I don't think the Flyers will be as concerned. The management will be as concerned. But if they see the majority of their young players not taking the next step or regressing, then there'll be concern. I think that's probably where we're at with this. But they have some tremendous young talent. I anticipate it will go in the other direction. In other words, up for most of those players. And in Mitchkov's case, a bounce back. So, we'll see where it goes. I mean, hey, if one of those guys gets hurt, or 2 or 3 of these guys, Owen Tippett or some of these guys get hurt, Sanheim, who's been a rock, if he gets hurt, that's going to alter everything we're talking about here. So you have to have health for sure.
I agree. Thank you for that description there, JJ. That for sure. Like if the guys play better and the youth continues to get better, it's a win in our eyes. Long story short in there. Before I ask my next question, I want to take a little 30-second shout out. Everyone, if you have a spare moment, this is something we pushed last episode too. I want to throw this out here as well. Flyers reporter Jason Martinez continues to go through his battle with colon cancer. The QR code there in the corner is a direct link to his GoFundMe. So if you guys, again, have any money whatsoever that you'd be willing to donate, please find it in your hearts to possibly give a small donation to Mr. Martinez. He is a big part of the Flyers community, and we just want to take this platform to show our love and support for Jason in his continuous battle with colon cancer and his health issues. Please, Flyers fans, again, anything would help. $1, a quarter, a penny, anything. Each and any donation would go a long way for Jason and his family. So just something to consider if you have a few extra dollars to spare.
Yeah, he's in a real battle, and that's great of you guys to do that. And he does have that GoFundMe, so you got to give him some support. He's battling his butt off and going through some tough stuff right now too. He's just got a chemo treatment just a couple days ago. So all our thoughts and prayers out to Jason. He's made his battle so public, and he's let everybody in on what you go through for cancer diagnosis, what you should do to try to get diagnosed earlier, which he admits, he should have done stuff earlier. So try to learn from some of the things that he didn't do. But then once he was diagnosed, all the things that I've actually learned in following him. So it's been quite courageous of him to do that, and deserves all the support that you can get, obviously, in terms of dollars through that QR code and the GoFundMe, but also through your thoughts and prayers.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other spot you can potentially do a little donation to, 97.5 The Fanatic. They're doing shirts that go directly to his family. I just purchased one on Wednesday. I was hoping it was going to get here before today's show. Unfortunately, it didn't, but I'll be rocking it the next Flyer episode that we do pre-record on the 23rd. So, yeah, for sure. I'm sorry, the 30th. So, like I said, everyone, any donation helps. It woke me up a little bit. I actually just got a recent colonoscopy myself a week and a half ago because my father has some colon issues as well from being exposed to Agent Orange in Vietnam. So between that and my father's health conditions, I said, why not do it a little early? Because cancer diagnosis for colon cancer has gone up over the last few years.
Yeah, especially for younger people. So
it has.
I mean, when I was in my 30s, it was like, don't worry about it until you're 50, but that's not the case anymore. You get your colonoscopies, it's painless, and just do it.
Yeah, agreed. So take any dollar would go a long way for him. All right. With that being said, let's move on to our next question. So not too long ago, you were talking about Matvei Mitchkov as one of the guys that going to be a big part of the future for this team and his potential bounce back. So obviously he stayed in Russia all offseason. That was a little bit of a discussion point I've seen on social media with fans and whatnot. Me personally, I have no issue with it. I'm glad he looks like he's really been committed, working his butt off. We've been seeing posts on his Instagram of all the training he's done. I think he went to Panarin's training camp out in Russia. I think he's due back relatively soon to Voorhees. So just want to get your take. What did you think about Mitchkov's offseason and the work he has put into potentially for a bounce back and maybe even a breakout season this upcoming year?
I mean, he looks great from what I can tell in the shots. He looks to be more lean, but I mean, these are posts. I just don't. I mean, first of all, the social media end of things is not necessarily the accurate reflection of how all Flyers fans feel. I want to get that point out right at the back.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
I mean, I go to so many events for the Flyers and talk to so many fans, and I don't get any of the stuff that I see online. So some of that's people who are really into it, maybe even too much into it, but I mean, they're so into it and they're analyzing every little thing. He looks good. I hope he is, but really this is all going to come down to once Cavs starts, we see how he is, and Rick Tocchet, and everybody sees what kind of shape he's in. I can't imagine, knowing Matvei, he's a very driven individual. He's not Pavel Brendel, who came here and had no motivation at all. He was the most laid-back person. I mean, this guy really wants to be great. Knowing what happened to him last year, knowing what the Flyers have told him, knowing what I'm sure other people have told him, I have to assume he's really working his butt off and will be in great shape. And that's only part of it. He's also got to figure it out in terms of how you don't fly the zone at the wrong time, things like that. But being in shape will help that because you feel like you're moving better. You have more confidence in your ability to catch up to people or to stay ahead of people. And so it should help him to be in better shape. And I'm assuming he'll be in better shape, but I don't put a lot into social media pictures and posts. We'll see when he gets to camp. We'll see how he looks when he's skating, and then we'll make judgments.
Agreed on that. I'm looking forward to seeing him next season. I think he's due for a big year. I'm excited. I'm really hoping we see bare minimum 23-24 Mitchkov and him potentially taking that next step in his development. And joining us is the third member of the Flyer group, Mr. Jamey Baskow. Jamey, how we doing today, man?
It's been a night, man. Hey, JJ, how are you, my man?
Always making that stylishly late entrance, hey, Jamey.
No, you know what? This time it's a toilet issue, man. It just never ends.
Wax
springs and
TMI.
I told him you were dealing with a personal issue, Jamey, before you hopped on. So I didn't want to go too deep into it. Looks like you filled in the personal part.
Yeah. Oh well, it is, right?
Well, if you disappear, we'll understand why.
Yeah, exactly. Jamey, now that you're here, why don't you give a potential question you may have for JJ? We've gone over a couple things already last season. Mitchkov's progression. We gave a little bit of a shout out to Jason Martinez. How his summer was. So is there anything you might want to ask Jamey right now?
Well, you gave that shout out to Jay. Man, prayers and thoughts are still with him. Jason's a phenomenal guy. JJ will attest to that. One of the best Class 6 guys. Always good to see him around the rink, and just a good overall guy to be around. Just not for hockey, just in general. Just in life, and always thinking about Jay. And if we have that GoFundMe still up, even a penny goes a long way. I understand it's hard times for everyone. But a penny a day, keep the doctor away, hopefully. His family and great guy. But in any sense, one big question I had, JJ, do you think the Flyers front office is content with heading with the way the power play has pretty much stood pat with power play 1 and power play 2? Or do you think there's an acquisition maybe somewhere, maybe a waiver, at camp or something that they could address the power play situation? Or do you think they're content with the roster as is?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to acquire someone because power play performers are usually top-level players. It's pretty hard to find. You can eventually, occasionally, I should say, find a diamond in the rough who becomes a power play gem for you. But usually those are guys that you acquire in big trades, through the draft, what have you. I do think there are going to be a couple changes in the power play already, though. First of all, Porter Martone is here for the whole year, and he is going to be a weapon on the power play. There's no question about it. And David Jiricek's the other one, which I think you're going to see him get a legitimate shot to run it from out high, either 1 or 2. It might be the power play 2 to start, but with that big shot, as you guys mentioned, I mean, he's got something nobody else really has for the Flyers. So, from the point for the power play. So those are 2 kind of changes that have been made, Jamey, without having to make any more. Whether they'll make other structural changes based around some of the new talent that they have, that remains to be seen. I mean, it didn't work last year. Obviously, it hasn't worked in really the last 4 years, to be honest with you, with lots of different talent. So, and lots of different coaches and lots of different structures. So, I'm basically, people ask me this question all the time: what's wrong with the power play? I have no idea at this point what to do to fix it. I wish I did. If I did, I wouldn't be just the announcer. I'd be doing a lot more. But it's just one of these things where they haven't been able to shake that. And I think this year they're hoping that Jiricek's shot and Martone's net front presence and ability to move the puck around quickly and his overall hockey sense will be 2 real good additions to either of the units and will hopefully help them. Again, I don't expect them to lead the league in power play percentage, but maybe climb to 20th. If they could get to 20th, that would be a good thing. And when you've been 32nd for the last 5 years or whatever it is, 20th sounds good. So if they can just get to mediocre on their power play, that would be huge. It would be something the Flyers haven't had in so long. It would almost seem like a bonus. So let's hope they can get there. And I think they're hoping that maybe some of the additions since late last year will help in that direction.
Yeah, agreed.
Can I talk for a second? Here in Montreal, we've had the same problem for a bunch of years. We had a shitty power play. What helped was exactly what you guys are adding. Power play quarterback in Lane Hudson.
Yeah,
I guess
don't have
Austin
that
as well. And, you get a little more scoring players up front. It seems like where you guys are going. So I think you're going to see an improvement this year in your power play.
I really think Martone's going to help. And Tyson Forster could also continue to develop as a net front or down low option in the power play. Out high, they don't have a Lane Hudson, but Jamey Drysdale did get better as the year went along. If you have Drysdale, then Juracek maybe is a different kind of guy out high with a big shot. Maybe it can all work. We'll see. We'll see how it starts to work together in training camp. I'm anticipating. I mean, the Flyers are not oblivious to this. They know their power play has to get better if they're going to take that next step. They, again, don't have to be the top-ranked power play, but they have to be at least solid on the power play to get to where they want to get. So they know improvements have to take place.
Agreed on that. You look at guys like Tyson Forster staying healthy the whole year. I think he has 35-plus goal potential in him if this guy can stay healthy. In my opinion, he's got the best shot on the team. As you mentioned, Porter Martone, hopefully he locks in as a potential net front presence. That's a real thing that this team hasn't truly had a really good net front presence on the power play since Wayne Simmons was here. And
JVR was a pretty good net front guy. Maybe term one. By his second stint, maybe his skills had eroded a little, although he could still make some good plays around the net. But I would say they haven't had a consistently good net front presence on the power play in a while. I think the bigger absence, though, has been out high, where they just haven't had that Lane Hudson kind of guy who can move the puck around, or that guy who can just blast away. Yeah, so they're hoping that Juracek could be the latter there, and hope that the improvement continues from Drysdale, where he might be able to be the guy that can be the puck mover out top, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, they've kind of missed that since Shane Gostisbehere was last year, and it's been kind of
but even Ghost late in his stint with the Flyers, I mean, he missed the net so much. If you remember, that's all everyone talked about was how their power play wasn't good because Ghost, was so I give him full marks. He has resurrected his career and he's become solid, and he runs the power play. But when it's easy to remember this, think of this now and think of Shane Gostisbehere with the Hurricanes as the Shane Gostisbehere's last year or two of the Flyers. Not the same player. He really had dropped off. He had the knee surgeries, and I think it took him a while to get back. I mean, he did a great job getting his career back in order. So maybe Ghost in his first year or his year 3 might be the
year
last time
1
they
and
had
3
that guy out there. Sure. Yes. So it's been a while, and they had Giroux for all those years doing good things in the power play, but even his last 2 or 3 years of the Flyers, they were near the bottom on the power play. So it's been a puzzle. It's been a puzzle in which they haven't been able to fit the pieces together. They have a couple of new pieces this year. We'll see if it helps that puzzle.
Yeah, years 1 through 3, Gostisbehere was an absolute lightning rod. Especially, his Calder year, he came second in the Calder voting. I think he had like 3 or 4 overtime winners that year, and then the third year he was here in 17-18. He had close to a 70-point season. That's what they've really been missing. Is just a high-end offensive quarterback that could really bolster this team for sure. Hopefully, Juracek can bring something along those lines. I'm not expecting him to be a 60-point guy by any means, but if
he's a different player. Yeah, he's not the guy who's going to be like a Lane Hudson guy out there skating around like that. So he's just the guy who might open some other things up for their power play with his shot. I could see Martone getting some tips and rebounds off of Juracek shots. So or Forster or some of those guys down low. So we'll see how it all comes together. I mean, odds are they got to be better. I mean, eventually got to be better. I mean, they've been at the bottom of the league, the very bottom, I believe, is it 4 of the last 5 years. So, and they were 2 from the bottom in the year they weren't. So it's been a real question, and they have to get answers to that question for sure. And they're well aware of this. So we'll see where it goes this year.
Yeah. All right. Let me shoot the next question out to Eric. Eric, what's your next question for JJ?
Yeah, actually, sticking with the power play, we were talking about this last week. I just want to ask you, like, there's not much out there in free agency. Obviously, we saw it was very barren this year, but there's an interesting name out there in John Klingberg. Now, look, he's early in his career, he was really good on the power play, but then he had those 2 hip surgeries, and like but he's still producing a little bit on the power play, like the last couple of years in his spot. What do you think, or do you think the Flyers would have any interest in bringing someone like him in, like a veteran, because he's going to be 34, if I'm not mistaken, to even just to like maybe push a guy like Juracek, to maybe like mentor him a little bit? Because like honestly, I really like that they're going to give Juracek a chance. I'm like, you might as well just find out what you have in the guy, especially that's his niche, is like he's really good on the power play. So, but maybe and I know Talkett likes to he prefers a 13-8 as opposed to a 14-7 with the forwards and defense. So having, let's say, a guy like Klingberg, so you'll have like him and Benoit as like your 4th pair and they're veterans. Like, okay, they want to set it up in the press box. Like, who cares? But do you think the Flyers would have any interest in bringing a guy like Klingberg, at least on a PTO for like for camp?
I think Danny Briere and Keith Jones will do whatever it takes. They obviously show with the Karlsson offer, they're going to go for the punt. Now they have done that with young. He's a young player, very young player. There has been kind of a blanket rule that they're not going to go out after those 30-somethings. Klingberg, I believe, is in his 30s now, so they're not going to go that direction often. However, there did appear to be some interest in John Karlsson. So. The fact that they were actually willing to make an offer to a guy who's in his late 30s to do exactly what you just said, help the power play, shows you that Danny's out there. He's looking. So he wouldn't turn down Klingberg. I don't think, just without looking. Do I know whether Danny Briere is interested in John Klingberg? No. He might not have any interest at all. I mean, there has been a lot of time since John Klingberg has looked elite. He's looked much less than elite for quite a bit of time. So you're really banking on being able to unlock what he had 5-6 years ago. That's a bit of a risk. I don't know as if they're willing to take it. I certainly don't think they're willing to take it right now, and they want to see what they have with Juracek and what they're going to do with the power play as it is. But whenever I asked Danny about a move, in fact, I asked him about offer sheets months before they made the Karlsson offer sheet. And his answer to me is, just tell anybody who asks you that question, we will examine any and all ways to make this team better. And, if I had said that right away, people would say, well, what a lame answer that is. That's just a blow you off answer. No, he was about ready to make that offer sheet. So he means it. He absolutely means they're going to do things to try to make this team better. You can't take a bigger swing than they did with Leo Karlsson. So they're going to be out there. They're going to be looking for players, whether it's John Klingberg or John Karlsson or somebody who might help their power play. But it has to be the right player, it has to be the right time for that player, it has to be the right salary. All those things have to come into play, and we'll see. But I think for right now, as we head into training camp, I think they're going to look at it as it is right now, see how it goes, and then maybe if it's still struggling, maybe then they have to look to make moves and bring a veteran in somehow. Not easily done during the season, that's for sure.
Yeah, agreed on that. One person that we've been discussing quite a bit on the show recently is Owen Tippett. This is a guy who ended up missing the entire second round. He had the injury that he was dealing with. He had, I believe, internal bleeding. He had the core muscle procedure, I believe, done this offseason. And this procedure is not something that the Flyers have had a lot of luck with. It's an injury I feel like they've had a lot of familiarity with for all the wrong reasons. Kevin Hayes, Sean Couturier, Jamie Drysdale is just naming a few of the guys that have had core muscle injuries with this team. We expect Owen Tippett to be out there for training camp and night one, but do you think his potential procedure and injury could have a negative impact on his play in at least the early stages and maybe first few months of the season?
Well, I'm not 100% sure that his procedure was the same as, say, Claude Giroux's was that one year, and Shane Gostisbehere going back to him. He had that same thing. I remember them taking about a half a season to get back into where you expected them to be from a mobility standpoint. But I don't know as if his surgery was exactly the same. When you talk core muscle surgery, that it's not like one surgery that's a core muscle surgery. There are different kinds of surgeries within that whole framework. So, and I'm not even close to knowing the difference. So I hope he'll be better. They said he'll be ready. He will be playing, but all these surgeries. I mean, whenever anybody has a surgery, you wonder how they'll bounce back. So it could take him a little while. We'll see. I will say this about Owen Tippett: he was last year. There were times when he was playing the best hockey of his career. He was playing both ends of the ice. He was playing physically. He was scoring. So if they can get him back to that where he was last year, that's a really good player. And I know people love to go to the numbers and say Mitchkov had as many points as Tippett last year, blah, blah, blah. But you have to watch the games, look at the numbers, underlying numbers sometimes to see. Owen Tippett was a force for the Flyers in many games last year for long stretches. And he had it in short stretches in earlier seasons but for 5 or 6 games, he'd be like that. But he was like that for a stretch of 20 to 25, 30 games for the Flyers. And that is really what they're going to hope that he gets back to. But I'd only be guessing as far as how much the injury and the surgery will impact him. I don't know exactly all the details of his surgery. Flyers are really good about keeping those details quiet.
Mm-hmm. I think we can all agree with that. They're pretty low key on the injury front. Well, for good reason. You don't want to throw that.
No, most teams are, but yeah, it's definitely a concentration of Keith Jones, and he knows how the media gets stuff. So, it's a concentration. They will let the media know what they think the media needs to know. When it comes to injuries, that's not necessarily something they want to give a lot of information on. They'll tell you if the guy can play or not, if he's out or not, but they won't necessarily tell you why or what the problem is. So the player would have to say that in interviews, or his agent would have to leak it out. For what reason he would do that, I don't know, in order for that information to get out there as to what kind of core surgery it was and really how much it's going to affect him.
Understood on that. Jamey, how about you? What's your next question for JJ?
Well, staying with Owen Tippett, Owen Tippett reminds me a bit of Jake Voracek with how tough he is to move off the puck. And I think he's a little more skilled than Jake scoring wise. Maybe not, passing wise or whatever. But do you think at times Owen Tippett really doesn't know how good he is?
I would agree with that up until last year. I think he really figured it out last year and really was showing us how good he can be. Because there was a long stretch where he was the Flyers' best forward, and the one thing he can do that Jake couldn't is he could just take the puck and go. Right? Jake was not the fastest skater. Jake had better vision, probably. Jake had tremendous vision, and as you say, was a great playmaker. But Owen Tippett and the Flyers, that was really missing against Carolina. That speed that Owen Tippett has was, they could have used him for sure against Carolina, and he can just take it and go. He is a guy who can by himself create offense, whereas Jake was more of a guy who could create offense using others. But I think there is some sense to what you said in terms of he was, for a long stretch of his early career, you'd see glimpses and then it wouldn't be there, and glimpses. And he's a very sensitive guy. He's one of the nicest guys you're going to meet, but he's very aware of everything. And I think perhaps his confidence was lacking a little bit early on. But I mean, this is a guy who last year at times really was taking the bull by the horns and going. I mean, announcers would come in from the other teams or national announcers, they call Flyers game and go, how does Tippett not have 50 goals the way he's playing? And, we've said that once or twice here as well. But he shows in stretches, and I thought a longer stretch last year than in any year previous, that he can really dominate. So I think he's getting there, Jamey. I mean, at this point, 27, he's got to be getting there. He's in his prime right now. So I think injury aside, if the injury isn't an issue, I think we'll see more of that this year.
Well said. I mean, thank you for that breakdown. Yeah, I have to agree. Tippett's the type of guy with his speed. He can create offense. We've seen him do some miraculous stuff when he's got a head of steam. There was a play he made in that Pittsburgh series. I believe it was game 2 when he ended up dangling 2 or 3 defenders before he just gave Garnet Hathaway a free layup goal. Like you see him do stuff like that, and it comes out of nowhere in flashes. And if he can put that together consistently, watch the hell out because you got a real player there for sure. And then obviously that Dallas goal a few years ago when Tortorella was still here, that little Spinaroonie goal, I still get flashbacks to that beauty. So
he's had a lot of them. Yeah, one in St. Louis that was traumatic. He's had a lot of those goals that, and that play against Pittsburgh, the pass to himself was just, we've gotten used to seeing now between the legs goals by players, and to some degree spinorama goals, although that one was done at such high speed against Dallas, but I don't think we've seen a player play the puck to himself around a player like that. It was such a unique play, and then get knocked down to a knee, get back up, make the play. He's I would say probably over the last 3 or 4 years he's been the highlight guy for the Flyers, right? Zegras certainly is in that mix now, but and Mitchkov his rookie year had some highlights, but it's just some of the stuff Owen Tippett does. You just are like nobody else has ever done that kind of stuff. And that's fun to see.
I agree. Let me shoot this next question off to Eric. Eric, what do you got?
Yeah, my next question is actually about Denver Barkey. Last year, towards the end of the season, and actually a little bit in the playoffs, they tried him at center. And in all honesty, I think in the system that the Flyers want to play, the way Tocchet wants to play, having smaller wingers is actually counterproductive, even though like Barkey's he's feisty and he goes into the corners, but at the same time he is small and he does lose a lot of puck battles because of that, especially against bigger defenders. So moving him to the middle in my opinion, and actually shifting Cates back to the wing, having a bigger winger, because Cates too could go into the corner, he can muck it up, he can go fetch pucks. So like seeing him play center, like, do you think that he could actually stick at center and the Flyers would actually give him like a long leash to start the season?
To start the season, that would be interesting to see. I mean, the reason he ended up playing in the playoffs is because Noah Cates got hurt, right? But I do think that it's a possibility. He certainly did not embarrass himself in the middle. Face-offs could be an issue. Smaller centers sometimes have trouble winning face-offs. And I wouldn't say he loses that many battles. He goes into the corner, you think he's going to lose the battle, and he comes out with the puck a lot of the time. But eventually, he is going to get hammered a lot by those bigger players, and will he wear down as a winger? So I think they want to see that. I think Logan Stankoven ended up taking over as the number 2C for Carolina last year, and he's no bigger. He's basically the same size as Denver, might be a tad bigger, but he's a very small player too. And everyone was talking about, a small guy like that, how can he do it? How? And he ended up being the number 2 center on a Stanley Cup winning team. So, and he contributed to that cup. So, I would not rule it out. I don't know going into camp if they do that. I think they have their centers, and maybe. I would not rule it out, but I think they probably want to see maybe some struggles first before they go that route. But they love Denver Barkey. Anybody who's been around Denver Barkey loves Denver Barkey. He has the best attitude you're going to have. He is a skilled player. All he's lacking is size, and he has everything else. He has the tenacity, the intelligence, the attitude, the IQ off the charts. So I think sometimes you can overcome missing one of those key qualities, size being the one that he's missing, and still be a really good player. Brad Marsh, we can go down the list of small players, Marty St. Louis, who've really been great players. Denver Barkey, I think, is going to be a very good player in this league, whether he's a winger or a center. But at center, we got to see how it fleshes out with where they are now. A big part of the equation might be if Trevor Zegras is back on the wing. But if Zegras is in the middle, I don't think you'll see Barkey start in the middle. You got Zegras, Couturier, you got Dvorak, Cates. I don't know as if they start Cates on the wing or Dvorak on the wing to put Barkey in the middle. Maybe, but and injuries may happen in training camp, and the center goes down, and there Barkey goes in there. But I would think he starts the camp as a winger. But you never know. Toc might have really liked what he saw of him in the middle there in the playoffs and a little bit in the regular season, and maybe they're with you and they're thinking let's start him and move Noah or somebody else to the wing. We'll see about that. They also have Noah Chari as well now, so it's going to be interesting to see how it all breaks down in the middle. But I would guesstimate he's a winger to start camp, but we'll see.
Gotcha. I gotcha. I'm going to kind of piggyback off of Eric's last question a little bit. My question that I got coming up is about the potential logjam that they do have at the wing. Because as we assume that Bump and Barkey do make this roster, you're going to have 7 guys that feel like they're top 9 wingers. So math is not going to math, unfortunately. Not everyone can play in the top 9 then. So my question to you is, what's your take on the potential logjam? And if someone does have to move to either the 4th line or to maybe down the middle, how does the lineup look to you with Bump, Barkey, and Martone now all being potential full-timers here?
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw Bump get scratched in the playoffs and Mitchkov get scratched in the playoffs. That was that same logjam. That same logjam exists. If you move Zegras back to the wing, that logjam is even more of a logjam. So we'll see. I'm pretty sure Zegras will start in the middle. And I will say this about Trevor Zegras in the middle. His underlying numbers got better as the year went along. He was getting better as a all-around center. I mean, people don't think of him that way. And there were some times, certainly early on when he was playing at center, where he might have gotten lost a little bit in the defensive zone. But I mean, he did make improvements that way. And he might be their number 1 center. So we'll see. But if he's on the wing, then the logjam gets that much greater. So somebody's going to have to take a seat. And it might come down to whether you want an Alex Bump or one of these other wingers to play on the 4th line or sit. What's your better option for him? But this is a healthy problem. I mean, this is competition for spots. This keeps people on edge. This is not something to be worried about in a negative way. When you have too much of anything, it's a good thing. So go for it. It's going to be competitive. Earn your spot. Earn your spot on the roster. And when you get that spot, you better play well and keep that spot. Coaches love to have that on the roster. So I think seven when you only have 6, that might be a good thing. That might not be a bad thing at all.
Yeah, it should lead to some healthy competition for sure down the line. I'm very curious to see how this opening night roster looks. One thing I even potentially thought, maybe they move Noah Cates to the 4th line to really bolster that 4th line a little bit and kind of keep Barkey and Bump in that top 9. Maybe, as you mentioned, there's some healthy scratch here and there. Or one possibility I thought, maybe just to start the season, one or Bump or Barkey do start in the AHL until an injury happens, just so they can get sufficient playing time. I'm just very curious how this is going to lead. But yeah, too much competition is not a bad thing. I'm looking forward to seeing how this unfolds for sure.
No, there's no doubt if Barkey or Bump or one of the guys who are waiver eligible are not playing a lot, they will get time in the minors. They want them playing, the younger guys, obviously. Nola Chari's a guy who might sit out a game or two, if you get there. But I really like him as a 4th line player. So there are veterans that you might be able to sit. I mean, Garnet Hathaway became that veteran at times last year. It's going to be very interesting. The other interesting thing that the Flyers have now, they don't have Nick Delorier. They don't have Garnet Hathaway. They don't really have a guy to watch over their youngins. And I know Keith Jones is acutely aware of that. He's old school that way, and most coaches are, and most players and managers and coaches are. There's been some rumors about Ira Jack guy, right? So he's a defenseman, but you still, are they going to go out at some point before the season starts and get one of those kind of guys? Because maybe it won't be a problem in the regular season, but I think come playoff time, you just have to have a little bit of that guy to watch after your place. And some people would argue it's even more necessary in the regular season when teams are more willing to take penalties and do that stuff. So we'll see about that. But as far as the talent level, if you have young players sitting day after day after day, and they're eligible to go to the minors without going through waivers, you're going to get them to the minors and have them play. And I mean, Bump's well aware that he was scratched in the playoffs. Barkey was a healthy scratch a time or two last year. So they're aware. And again, I just think that's healthy. Keep everybody on their toes.
Agreed. We're getting close to being up at it right now. So I'll let Jamey get one final question in, and then we'll probably wrap things up here. Jamey, what do we got?
Yeah, my last question, JJ, was do you think Hunter McDonald could push for a spot given the lack of Garnett Hathaway, given the lack of, toughness and Nick Delorier being missing? I was going to see maybe could he overtake Simone Benoit, for that final spot, the 7th spot as a 7D.
Well, as Juracek too.
Yeah.
It is. I think to make the team, I think Hunter McDonald's definitely in there. In fact, I did an event last night, and Patrick Sharp, who's part of the development team with the Flyers, when I mentioned some of the young talent, he brought Hunter's name up on his own. So that would indicate to me that he is very much on the radar for management to have a chance. He got a game in the NHL, and he was very impressive in that game last year. And I love Hunter McDonald. I mean, he's a great kid, and I like it. His only problem so far has been deciding when to be the physical presence and knowing when to do that. But I think over his minor league seasons too now, he's been able to do that. So yeah, I think it's a possibility. Some of that might have to do with what happens with Rasmus Ristolainen. I know they're different size, but they're both big physical defensemen. So he's definitely in there. I know, again, Patrick Sharp brought his name up last night. I think there's no question that he's going to get a look in the shortened training camp in terms of preseason games. Maybe not as many looks as you get in the old fashioned preseason with fewer preseason games this year, but I think he'll get a look, and I think he'll be an early call-up should they have a need in this area. So that's a good point, Jamey. I mean, there's one guy they could have who could be that kind of protector player. I think you sometimes would rather have the protector player being a fourth line forward as opposed to a defenseman, but it doesn't always happen that way. So
yeah, it can come almost from any position, really, as long as you get a guy that isn't going to let your team get pushed around. I'm fine with it being a defenseman if it has to be. I mean, we've seen Nick Seeler drop the gloves on several.
Yeah, Nick's out there Nick's definitely one of those guys. I mean, I'm not saying they're lacking completely in toughness. I'm just saying they don't have that one guy. I mean, Nick Delorier, when Nick Delorier dressed, the other team knew he dressed. It affects how they look at things. I mean, people think that's archaic. No, that still exists in the NHL. When Tom Wilson's on the ice, people know Tom Wilson's on the ice. It affects how you play as an opponent. So there aren't as many of them in the NHL anymore, but there are still those players out there that have that kind of influence. And also give your players more space and more freedom. So I don't know as if the Flyers have Nick Seeler will answer the bell anytime against anybody, no doubt about that. And there are several other Flyers players that's thinking Benoit's another one, but there are other guys who will do that. But I'm not sure they're the guy, Ross Johnston, those kind of guys. They're not those kind of guys. So we'll see where it goes. They may not feel it is a need right now, and see how the season plays out. Maybe the team toughness takes over for that, and they don't need that. I mean, you look at Carolina again, going back to the Cup champs. It's a copycat league. They got Nick, but didn't necessarily play him. But they picked Nick up for that reason. They had nobody like that going into the playoffs. So there's still that role still exists in the NHL. There's no question about it. I know a lot of the people say, "Oh no, that's gone." It's, bullies and all that's gone. Yeah, you're not going to bench clearing brawls and all that anymore, but you still have the physical component, the physical intimidation aspect of this game is still there. And I hope it always is there because I think it's part of what makes hockey great. And we'll see if the Flyers deem that they need more of it, or maybe the way the team shapes up this year out of camp, it's there and we just don't see it.
I agree. The physical aspect of this game and, having enforcers to stand up for your guys, to make sure they don't get hurt. It's a prominent part of our game. And I agree with you there, Ed. It always stays part of it. Like we need guys that are going to be willing to drop the gloves when need be and keep their guys safe. So I'm 100% with you on that. But yeah, with that being said, that is going to wrap things up for this episode of Flyer Again at Flyera. JJ, thank you so much again for coming on for today's show. It's always a pleasure. Another charity I want to give a shout out to is Alex's Lemonade. It's a charity JJ is very close with. If you have any spare bucks to go with towards that, give a donation to Alex's Lemonade. Can be found right at www.alexslemonade.com. So Pretty easy, direct link to get to. But yeah, thank you again, JJ, for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you here. Thanks for talking Flyers hockey with us and taking the time out of your busy schedule to just give us the time of the day and answer some of our questions. And we look forward to another awesome season of Flyers hockey coming here your way.
Always great talking Flyers hockey, and you guys are nice enough to make a donation to Alex's when I come on. So I appreciate that. It's very nice of you. I've even thought of saying I'll only go on podcasts when they'll do that from now on, but some people get mad. But you guys do it all on your own, so I really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's, it's our way of thanking you for taking the time, and we're going to make another donation after the show. So yeah, for sure. And we'll do it every time. So thank you.
Appreciate it. And this should be a fun season. I know some people are like, oh, they're kind of approaching this season with trepidation. The Flyers didn't go out and get a LeBron James. I know that. But the growth just continues, and you just got a lot of things to. There's so many things to look forward to this year. I mean, many people will be watching Mitchkov, of course, but just all the young players and how they develop or how they don't develop, and how it all fits together. Juracek, Wall, how that mixes with Vladar. There's all kinds of great things that I can't wait to start to get a look at once training camp starts.
Yeah, I agree. Martone's another. We didn't really mention him much. I'm looking forward to see how he handles the full sprint of an NHL season. I mean, he came in and flashed like an incredible run during those last 9-10 games he was here in the regular season in the playoffs. But now we're going to see how we can handle an 84-game marathon. So that's going to be very interesting to see too.
Let me say this about him, and again, this is just opinion, but I was actually more impressed with how Porter actually responded in the playoffs after things had leveled there for a bit. He scored in the first 2 games, and then he was quiet for a bit, but then he came back in the last 3 or 4 games before they got eliminated and played really well again. At that tempo of playoff hockey, and it was against the soon-to-be Stanley Cup champions. I mean, to show that he could make that adjustment that quickly as a teenager or as a young player, I mean, that is, to me, really impressive. So that gives me hope that he'll be able to handle the rigors of the season. There's going to be some dips, no question. Yeah. But I'm pretty hopeful. This is a really savvy kid. When you talk to him, you don't think you're talking to a young guy at all. You think you're talking to a guy in his mid-20s, maybe even late 20s. So I'm confident there. Barkey, same thing. Bump, we'll see. He's got to make that adjustment. He's shown, at times in earlier moves where he takes a little while to make the adjustment. Then once he makes the adjustment, he's really good. So again, those are all these things we're looking forward to as this training camp approaches, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all the young kids: Mitchkov, Martone, Bump, Barkey. Even got a little bit older group, like I said, Zegras, Forster. How those guys end up taking their next potential step in their development. It's going to be a fun year. I'm looking forward to it. And it starts just what month and a half from now, September 29th or 30th, I think, is opening.
Yeah. 30th against Pittsburgh. And I believe it's 44 days, something like that, away from as we record this. So it's going to be here before you know it.
Chemo teaming in days away. We're getting close. That's for sure. But again, thank you, JJ, for coming on. It's always a pleasure. Look forward to potentially having you again in the future. But as always, thank you all for tuning in for this installment of Flyera Gonna Flyera, our 92nd episode, and our 3rd time having an interview with the play-by-play guy and the voice of your Philadelphia Flyers, Jim Jackson. Look forward to hearing you on many broadcasts throughout the year. Not quite 84 of them, because there'll be a few nationally televised.
Yeah, including that opener, yes.
Yeah, including that opener, but it's going to be a lot of them that we're going to be able to hear your play-by-play, so we look forward to that. But thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to the start of the season. That's only a month and a half away, and as always, let's go Flyers.